Welcome to the Science and Spirituality Podcast, where we dive deep into universal spiritual principles and ground them in modern science. My name is Chris Carden.
And my name is Kevin Carden. And we are committed to simplifying the spiritual side of success for you with easy to understand scientific research so you could walk away with practical tools to create radical transformations in your life. Let's get started.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Science and Spirituality Podcast. This is Chris. I'm beginning this episode today. This is a new thing. So welcome to the fourth episode of this 6-part series on the mental faculties that we've been talking about. And so we've gone through imagination, intuition, will, and today we're going to talk about memory. Now, what I think is very interesting about what we're going to talk about on this episode is that when most people hear about memory, they think of something that's happening in the past that they're remembering right now in the present. But what we're going to try to present and try to explain to you is that you can actually remember something from the future in terms of a vision and a vibration and feel that feeling as if it's happening in the present, almost like in a similar way as if it's happening in the past with a normal memory. So we're going to dive right in.
Yeah. I want to say, just to correct, like, 'cause you said, like, with normal memory, it's just two functions of the same thing. Mental faculty is like your memory working forward and backward. And most people think of the memory as working backwards. So let's talk about that first, because that's the more conventional thing. And we want to touch on that just to talk about some tips and techniques that we've used to develop our memory. But also I think the more important function of our memory is also that forward memory and memorizing the vibration of your dream. So we'll definitely get into that. That's going to be more of the bulk of the episode. But really briefly, the mental faculty of memory, I think, is probably the mental faculty that most people have the strongest relationship with, because it's just a normal function of your mind. Like, you think about things of your past and what has happened in your life, the good things, the bad things, how that relationship went really well and how you're still enjoying that, or, the bad things that happened in a relationship. Like, you can go into your memory to bring up a lot of stuff. And a lot of people, of course, want to use their memory in the moment so that they can remember, say, like, facts, figures, names. And particularly for me, it's like I love remembering people's names so that I don't have to ask their name again. So a really quick tip I'd love to give on that backward memory so that you're remembering things in the moment that you're in is something called ridiculous association. And it's a technique you can use to develop your memory so you can remember numbers, names, things, places, anything. And what it means, the technique with ridiculous association, is literally just associating what you want to remember with something ridiculous in your mind. And actually, go figure, we're using imagination here as well with this technique. So the technique, for example, if you want to remember someone's name, like, I just met my neighbors a couple weeks ago. And even though I only met them once, and it was for literally a 30-second exchange as they were heading into their apartment as I was looking at the sunset, I remember their names still, even though I haven't seen them since. So their names are Corey and Maggie. And the ridiculous association technique is taking what you want to remember. So, for example, Corey is the name of one of my neighbors. I wanted to remember his name so that when I see him again, I don't think, oh, well, shoot, what's his name? So I say, hey, you, or hey, man. It's embarrassing. So if you want to remember people's names more, you can use a ridiculous association. And what that looks like is, so I wanted to remember this guy's name, Corey. So I thought, all right, what rhymes with Corey? Corey, Pori. So Corey, Pori. And I think of Pori as like a porous, or it's got a lot of like holes in it, for example. So I built an image in my mind, ridiculous image in my mind, of Corey, this guy, as a cartoon character. And he's just got a bunch of holes in him, like the cartoon is like if someone got shot or something like that, then there's a bunch of holes in him and he's fine, So, like, I just imagine that, and it's a funny image, and he's completely fine. So Corey Pori. So I'll remember that next time I see him, and I won't say it, of course, but it's easy to remember because it's a ridiculous association with that. Because it's anything that you have in your mind that is like kind of out there, is like cartoonish, then it could be easily memorable. So that's just one technique I have that I use specifically for names, but you could use it for anything.
How would you take that ridiculous association to strengthen your memory and use that to help yourself memorize a future visualization or a future vibration? Or is that just
I
to
think it's
develop
just
your faculty of memory, just so that when you do when you do attempt or begin to practice remembering something, a vibration from the future, you are
I
just
don't
better
think
at it?
I actually don't think it's related.
It's
Like
just
it may be indirectly related, like you said, is like as you develop your memory just to remember things in the moment to like recall later on. I think it does for sure, like strengthen that capacity for you to then memorize your dream. But at least in my experience, I haven't used ridiculous association for my vision
mhm.
because I want to
Yeah,
be
and I think
clear about exactly what
yeah,
I want.
and I think it's interesting because the faculty of memory, like our brains evolved to have this ability to remember. It's evolutionarily to survive.
Mm,
Like it was very important for you, for our ancestors, when they're walking by, let's say, a bush where they got attacked by a lion because like a lion's den is over there. It was important for them to remember what that bush looked like, so that when they walked past it again, they could be more vigilant.
hmm.
And so the memory's been built into our physiology ever since, we first started to evolve on this planet. And so now what we're learning is that we can use this faculty of memory to actually, I guess you can use the word like hack, but like hack our nervous systems to help us bring about a future that we want. Because
Hmm.
we've talked about before on this podcast multiple times that the brain can't tell the difference between something we vividly imagine and something that's actually happening. And so this idea of remembering the future is you have a vision of what you would love to bring about, and you imagine it in such detail that you memorize a vibration of what it's going to feel like when it actually comes to pass. And then your brain and your body, physiologically, they can't tell the difference, and so you start to act and you start to become that person already before it's happening, like in the present
Hmm.
moment. That helps to bring it about faster.
Yeah.
So I think
Dr.
that's the important thing to take from this episode on memory, is
Yes.
how to use it in the future. And I know like it even sounds weird me saying it, but I think we're just, like, as humans, our minds are so linear based. But when you get into any of like quantum mechanics, and if you like, even Einstein said like time is relative, like what
Yeah.
time is, like you realize that life is actually a little bit more fluid. But at first glance, it's kind of hard to kind of wrap your head around that. But that's like an easy way to explain it, like moving your physiology from a future moment into the present.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not like because of what you said, I just want to be clear. Like I get exactly what you're saying when you said it's like you're memorizing the future, like like you're going into the future to memorize. Like you're not going anywhere. You're experiencing it in the present moment.
Hmm.
And you're
Hmm.
using memory as like so it's future memory. So like you're
Hmm.
memorizing what it will be like. So exactly what you said, but just to clarify that. And it's powerful when you do this, but you have to practice it. Like you have to actually work with your mind to imagine what it would be like when it's all worked out. And that's not something you can just snap your fingers and do. It takes focused attention and effort because there's so many thoughts that will come in your mind as, oh, is this possible? Can I do this? This sounds ridiculous. Like I feel weird doing it. There's a lot
Hmm.
of barriers that can come up, and that's just your logic because most people have never done this before, where they sit in silence and take some time to visualize the reality they want to create. And I encourage anyone listening to this to go back to our episode on the power of visualization so you can understand what we're talking about here. And even the imagination audio,
Hmm.
the imagination faculty we covered,
Yeah.
it talks about this. But so the memory function in this is when you're done the visualization after a couple of minutes or 10 minutes or so. It's usually what I do on a daily basis. It takes about 10 minutes to like really go deep and visualize. Then you actually take some time and think to yourself, all right, I'm going to memorize this energy. I'm going to memorize how I feel right now, and just give yourself 10, 20, 30 seconds to really go deep and just feel what it'd feel like and notice how it feels so that you
Hmm.
can recall that in the day that you're in as you're going about your daily business. Like you're doing the laundry, you're washing the dishes, you're taking the dog for a walk, you're going grocery shopping, and you just bring back to mind what it felt like when you visualize so that you can be that version of you in the present moment now so that
Yeah.
you can really start to live that.
You're memorizing a mental and physiological physical signature.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've all done this for past experiences. Like when you have a memory, do you remember something embarrassing from the past? your body literally, like, you trigger a state within your body that puts you back into how you were thinking and feeling when you were feeling embarrassed. That's
Yeah.
how memory works. But what we're saying is you can use it to your advantage. And I
Moving
feel like
forward.
that's the interesting thing about all these mental faculties that we've talked about so far, is that most of us, I really want to argue 100% of us have used these mental faculties unconsciously to our detriment. But what we're trying to present here is that you can use them actually to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everyone's had that feeling of remembering a bad memory, or even remembering a really good memory and feeling either really shitty or really bad. Like, that's what we're talking about here. But we're
Yeah.
saying that you can memorize a way that you would love to feel, so that you can put that on, almost like putting on a shirt in the morning. You can put
Yeah.
on that feeling and then walk throughout the day as if you, like, whatever you're dreaming of has already come to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
we've all gone through moments in our life, I feel like, where we've wanted something and then we've gotten it and we're like, wow, this is exactly how I thought it was going to feel.
yep.
You know what I mean? So we've all done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in small ways. Like, actually, this is kind of funny to say. Like, this is just an example that popped in my mind. I've literally never thought of this before. But think about when you order out and you order your favorite food. Say it's pizza or Chinese food, something you've had so many times and you love it. It's delicious. Like for me, I a couple weeks ago, I got sushi with my girlfriend. We love sushi. It was the first meal we had together. I took her out on our first date. We went to a specific sushi restaurant, where they serve this roll of sushi called the Cowgirl, and it literally tastes like a McDonald's cheeseburger
Yep. I
because
tried
it
that
has
role.
a fried pickle in it, and I love it. It's delicious. It's healthy, and maybe not so healthy, but it's it's definitely better than a McDonald's cheeseburger. But anyway, what I'm pointing out here is that whenever we go to order that, I have it memorized of what it's like the taste of it, the deliciousness, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
already living that, and my mouth is watering right now, like when I'm
Yo,
talking about, like,
your cells are like, fuck yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's there. So that is real. And you could use that. We've all done that before. We all have that in memory, that vibration, that feeling of what it would be like when we eat our favorite food before it
Mhm.
even happens. So
Yeah.
it's the same as exact example, only with things that you've maybe have never done before, never experienced before, but you could do it. It's just as real, just as viscerally, uh, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's visceral, like you can feel it
Yeah.
in your body.
Yeah.
So
And it's like, it's interesting because you can tie in that example of thinking about a food that you're about to eat, and you have that physiological response of your mouth starting to water
yeah,
because your body thinks like the meal's in front of you.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so when you think of who you would love to be in the future, and you have such a clear vision of who that is, and like a parallel to your mouth watering is like your confidence starts pouring. Like when you
yeah.
think about that, it's like that would be like a
Gross.
metaphysical example of something that happens already physically. Like instead of like your mouth watering, like your confidence raises up because your body is it's like, oh, I'm that person right now
Yeah,
because you've memorized that state.
exactly.
Yeah.
I just listened to a Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation this morning. It's about 50 minutes. It's a deep dive. And there's a quote that I actually wrote down that I'd love to share here that goes aligned with exactly what you just said. It's just his version of how he describes what's happening. He said, a clear intention, the vision, and an elevated emotion, meaning you're imagining what it feels like, it has an effect on matter. That's going to the quantum field, that it literally changes the molecules around you, the atoms around you, to look like what it would be like when it's all worked out. But he says, when you change your energy, you open your heart and you allow your body to respond to a new mind. So your body is literally responding as if it's already happened. So then your confidence builds, you grow more aware of what you could do, the steps you could take, and you're more willing to do it. So memory
Yeah.
plays
And
an amazing function with this.
there was a study, I'm not sure where it's from, but it was in one of Joe Dispenza's books, and I remember writing it down because I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. But they got a bunch of participants together and they had like a strand of DNA in a vial, and they had like these experienced meditators like have the intention of wanting to move the DNA. Nothing happened. And
Mm,
then they had people get into a really high emotional state and try to move the DNA. Nothing happened. But then when they got the people into a highly emotional state with the intention of moving the DNA actually spiraled 25%. So what the study was highlighting is that it's not enough to have an intent and it's not enough to have an emotion. You need to have an intent and an emotion to be able
yep.
to move matter.
Yeah.
And then also just talking on the emotional thing for a second. The emotional component of it is so important because that's how our brain remembers things. It remembers things
Mm,
that are emotionally charged because those memories are important. Like you might not forget the last time you ate ice cream, but you probably remember the first time you ever ate ice cream. Like because it was such an emotionally charged event. So like that, well, maybe that's a bad example, but you get the point. It's like our brains are again evolved to remember emotionally charged events too, because those things are more important. So our brain highlights it. It's
hmm.
easier to make connections. So if you're going to attempt to use this memory to, try on a future, you really got to have the emotional component to it. You really got to feel into it, because then otherwise your brain's just going to be like, oh, this is just another memory I'm going to forget. But
Yeah.
when you add that emotion into it, that's when your brain's like, oh shit, this is important. Like I better remember what this feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the importance. Again, going back to what I shared about listening to the episode on the power of visualization and the imagination, and even the power of vision. We have an episode on the power of vision that's like like dozens of episodes ago, but all of those episodes talk about what you need to do to create a vision that's so compelling that you can memorize the vibration. It has to be something that you would love, that there's a burning desire for its achievement, that you want it so badly enough that you're going to be willing to imagine it and visualize it and then feel what it would feel like. It can't just be something like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, I think that's also why a lot of material goals are not that great, because they're not highly charged enough. Like some are, like if you really have a burning desire to earning a certain level of income, so that you can buy a house, so that you can have a safe place for your family, a place that you would love, that there's a lot of space to enjoy time together. But even notice that the money is for something. It's not just to have
Yeah.
money, have stacks of money, or just have this prestige. You have to have it emotionally charged. So connecting that with what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. And I think on like almost a subconscious level, like I feel like our spirit like understands that material goals, they're like the feeling you get from them is fleeting.
Yeah.
It's like once you get a certain level, it's like, wow, like, yes, I made it. But then it's like, now what? You know what I mean? There's not that
Yeah.
fulfillment there. Yeah.
Yeah. I literally had that experience recently. It's I earned the first month ever in my business yet, I will say, where I earned over $10,000. And a part of
Mhm.
me, like at first, I was ecstatic. It was amazing. I felt great. I've been wanting to create that result in my business for years, and had a couple of days, it felt amazing, and then it just was quote unquote back to normal. And I'm saying quote unquote because I was definitely a different person, but there was a normalcy to it that came to it. So there's always got to be something more than that. And that's when I refocused on the impact that I'm making to my clients. It's not just the money and what I could do with it, but it's the impact I'm making with my clients, what I feel about that, and how I feel about myself in providing that service. So
Mhm.
it's really not about the money. And I'm
Yeah.
learning more about that myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we went off in a couple different tangents that even went
A little
beyond
bit.
memory. Yeah.
No, but I think it was important that we brought up that emotional component piece of it, because I think that's the key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So
It is.
it was a tangent, but it was like a relevant tangent. So
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the only way you can really use your memory in that future tense. You can't just imagine something that's like lukewarm to you. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
that'd be cool. Like, how would that feel? I
Yeah.
don't know.
It would be like remembering like what you had for lunch yesterday. It's like I don't remember.
Yeah, and I don't care.
But if you
Like,
had if you had a sandwich that, like blew your socks off, like you might remember it.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So anything else you have? I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, one other thing, in terms of memory, like going back to the beginning of this episode, that about developing your memory to remember, like memorize things that you like, names, numbers, or anything like that. There is a book that I'd recommend if you do want to dive deeper into that. I know I shared one tool about the ridiculous association. You can get a book called the memory. Literally, it's called The Memory Book. That's the title of it, and it's by someone named Harry Lorraine. And that I personally haven't read entirely. I just get that the exercise, the ridiculous association with. But Bob Proctor, who's an amazing life coach and best-selling author, world renowned, he's the one who recommended it, and I've gotten it. I just haven't dove into it fully yet. But if you want to get something on that, that's highly recommended. That's the book to go to, I think.
Awesome. Did you want to talk about a strategy session?
Sure. Yeah, that's another thing. Because and I mentioned this on the last episode. on your mental faculty of will, of being able to hold the vision of what you want on the screen of your mind, the next step of that is memorizing the vibration. So you're working on feeling what it would feel like and remembering that throughout the day that you're in. Because if you're living more in alignment with your vision, more aligned with that vibration, then it's going to be much more likely for you to achieve it. So if you'd love to develop that capacity within you and work on memorizing the vibration of your dream, then let's have a conversation. Just as last week I shared, I'll love to offer one more time to have a strategy session with me, which is a 60-minute conversation where I get to help you get clear on what struggles you're facing right now, what blocks you're up against, to then also design your vision, which will answer your longing and dissolve your discontent and help you overcome any blocks. And along with designing your vision, we'll go through an exercise called Time Machine, where you will be able to speak from your vision as if it's happening right now to work on developing your ability to memorize that vibration, memorize that dream and what it's like. So I help you that on that call, and it's completely complimentary. And one other thing we cover is next steps. Like what could you do to bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be? So it's my gift to you. That the value of this session is $250. But again, for right now, if you message me on Instagram or email me at kevin@kevincarton.com, then I'd be happy to give you this session complimentary. And I'll also put a link in the description of this, of just a link straight to the calendar page that you can book time with me. But again, I only have a couple of sessions available a week. So if you'd love that, click it, schedule that as soon as possible, and we'll have a conversation.
Sweet. All right. Yeah. If you don't have anything else to mention about memory, we can wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for the fifth mental faculty. Do you know which one it is off the top of your head?
It's either reason or perception, because that's the last two.
There's only two left.
Yeah. So I actually don't know off the top of my head. And instead of prolonging this episode, let's just leave it up to random. Like, we'll see.
Yeah.
Like we have it structured, but we're not going to tell you right now. Just look forward to it.
It's a secret.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care. See you next week.
And that's it for today. So thanks for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. So any questions, any comments, just connect with us on Instagram. You could always DM us at Kevin Francis Carton
and at Chris J. Carton. And also, if you feel guided to, the one thing we do ask is for you to please rate the podcast and leave us a review. This way we can reach more people and impact more lives with this amazing information. With that, we'll see you on the next episode.